Good evening and welcome to another in the series, Why I Write. My name is Totlyn Oliver, and it is my pleasure to bring you another in the series of this very special time of celebrating our women for International Women's Day, Women's History Month, and also yesterday was International Women's Day, but today we're still celebrating because we didn't stop being women yesterday. So it is my pleasure to bring to you once more another in the exciting series of Go Speak Women 2022. For the last two nights, we've been featuring various women from various backgrounds with various stories. And tonight, it is no different. I have another very special lady with me at this time. And tonight, once more, we'll be featuring two ladies. And this is the first of our two. We have with us tonight, Erin Brown. She is Godmother of the Seas. I'm sure you have never heard of that. I know. And so mermaids are real. So if you never believed it, you believe it now. We have Erin Brown. She's a para-athlete and a disability consultant out of the Bahamas. I know so many of you have visited the Bahamas on vacations and you love it. Well, tonight we are bringing Bahamas to you in the person of Erin Brown. Welcome, Erin, to Go Speak Women 2022.
Thank you so much. It has been an amazing, amazing month so far. March is really taking it up a notch. We've had Happy Women's International Women's Day, Women's History Month. This year is absolutely female, won't you say?
I know, definitely so, and especially since it's my birthday month. So it all comes together quite beautifully. At this time, you will hear some live music in the background because today is a very special event for Erin. Yet she still took the time to chime in, tune in, to bring us her beautiful personality and her personability to Go Speak Women 22. I want you to tell us, Erin, where do we find you at right at this moment?
Well, if you're looking for me online, I mean, I know you're tuning in to Gold Women Speak, and so you need to share, like and share this right now. But you can also find me at www.erinbrownconnects.com. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, Erin Brown Connects, which is Disability Advocacy and Inclusion Management. But as of this exact moment, I am on Royal Caribbean Wonder of the Seas, the largest cruise ship in the world. They had their inaugural visit here in the Bahamas. So yes, I'm in the Bahamas right now on this wonderful ship, and I get to spend my time with Totlyn. So I'm having the best day ever.
This is fantastic. I'm so happy about this. This is the first that Go Speak Women is taking place on a cruise ship.
Okay.
You made it happen. You made it happen. But let us start right there. What does it mean to be Godmother of the Sea?
Totlyn, hold on to your seats because godmothers are a tradition, a maritime historical tradition where they select a godmother when they're launching a ship, a new ship, and they select a woman. Yes, it's a woman from around the world, and it's usually heads of states, celebrities, or dignitaries. And I was selected as of November 2021 Royal Caribbean's first Bahamian para-triathlete, Black woman with a disability, godmother for Odyssey of the Seas. So it's a lifetime honor. It is one that took me and still took me by, like, has me on a whirlwind, because not only of his historical value, but how we are showing up authentically in these spaces as diverse, authentic women with disabilities, Black women, just leaders in our own right, where we are breaking the bias, we are breaking the stereotypes. And so being the first godmother for Royal Caribbean is such an amazing one. But at the same time, I am celebrating for all Black women with disabilities out there who are sitting home and saying, why me? I am here to tell you on Gold Speak, woman, why not you?
Wow. 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 In preparing to have you tonight, I read all of that, but it was not as exciting as what you just said it and how you said it. Reading it is not sufficient at all. But hearing you tell the story, it now makes me understand that, especially on ships, Norwegian ships, they always had that figure of a woman at the front of
And
their
all
ship.
cruise ships are female.
Yes,
All
you know
cruise
what?
ships are female.
That makes tremendous sense.
Yes.
That makes absolute tremendous sense.
Yes.
All right, I love that. I love that. And here it is, you were awarded, you were selected and offered this position as the godmother of the seas in 2021.
Yes.
And it is now a lifetime honor. And this is the largest cruise ship, the largest cruise ship at all in the world. So, you know, definitely.
In the world. And so they're going to select their own godmother in December of this year. And so I'm excited to welcome another godmother into the fold, into the family. I can't wait to see who they select for Wonder of the Seas. But you know, once you're a part of the Royal Caribbean family, Odyssey of the Seas is absolutely a place that I have found to be such an amazing, thought-provoking, and family-oriented diverse space. I am excited of where else we're going to take this in the years to come.
The question, what is it that you do as godmother of the Odyssey of the Seas? What is your role? What is your function? What does this mean? How were you selected out of everyone else?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question, because I remember asking me and they said it is a small percentage of women from around the world that they select. And when you hear Odyssey of the Seas story of triumph, of working through all of the things that life threw at Odyssey, in launching, not being able to launch, having to fix this, the pandemic, all of these things, when they heard my story, when they recognized that 50 years ago that they decided that the Bahamas was going to be a port of call and a registry and a home, it was without any doubt that they were selecting a Bahamian at this time, at this space, to be the godmother of Odyssey of the Sea. And so what is my role? It is fairly simple, but I take it absolutely 100% to heart. We have a naming ceremony where we bless the ship and we bless all of the passengers that come on the ship. We break the bottle. You know that bottle what they used to have in their hand, actually break it? They've modernized it now. It's now strapped to an automatic thing, and you press the button and it goes and it hits the ship. And then we name it. I say my speech of, I now name the ship Odyssey of the Seas. I bless her and all who enters its walls, its birth, for a time to come. And that is absolutely it. But Totlyn, as you get to know me, you know, Erin Bionic Brown, they call me by my athletic name.
I know, we have a real bionic woman, please. We have a real bionic woman. And I'm gonna put up her
Yes.
picture again so you can see, because you can see everything full fledged. But
Thank you.
I'm gonna ask you to just pause right there, even put yourself on mute while I bring up this photograph once more, because it is worthy to be shared with everyone. Yes, indeed, it is. So here we go. Everyone, you are seeing, let me make it wide so you can see it. This is the lady herself, para triathlete and disability consultant. At the beginning, Erin explained to you exactly where and how you can find her. And she explained to you where she is right now. And that's one of the photographs that they use to celebrate and, say that here is our godmother of this cruise ship, the largest in the world. So now it's time for us to get into the backstory as to Erin, because Erin was not born with a disability. No, she was not. So Erin, you grew up in the Bahamas. Yes. And as you grew up, just tell us a little bit about your backstory, your family, your life growing up as a young lady in the Bahamas.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Totlyn. And so let me start off by saying I am a short, blonde-haired Black female wearing blue tinted glasses. My pronouns are she and her, and I self-identify as a limb difference individual, also known as an above-the-knee amputee. And I am Island Gal Magic, I call it. I hail from the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Grand Bahama is where I grew up. I was born in the capital, Nassau, New Providence, where I'm currently located, and where I have not only started my purpose-filled journey of being a person, a woman, a professional, a mother, a athlete with a disability, but I also lead the first disability-led consultancy firm, as well as working within academia, the University of the Bahamas Disabilities and Compliance Office. But I am you. Simply said, I am you.
Right.
I am everything that you at a young age say you want to be, everything that you aspire to be, the dreams that you have birthed and you thought about, the dreams that persons have put into you, and you're trying to figure, is that really for me? How am I going to fit that? I am you, and here's why. In the islands of the Bahamas where I grew up, which is sun, sand, and sea, our lived experiences was very different as a non-disabled person. You're absolutely correct. Over 17 years ago, I was diagnosed with osteosarcoma, which is bone cancer, which led to my amputation of above the knee of my left leg. Did that stop my life? Absolutely not. Did it give me purpose? I will say it has birthed even in-depth purpose for me, because my take and my perception during my cancer journey was absolutely not the average one. And I say that because when I was told I have to lose a leg, I said, okay, let's do it. When they said you're stage 4 cancer and we have to start chemotherapy right away, I said, let's do it. But why did I say that? Because prior to that, my mom had died as from lupus, and I experienced her from my super heroine. She was an athlete for the Bahamas, a national volleyball track and star. She was in ministry. She was about grassroots, uplifting the underdog. She was that person that I would go to, and I watched my mother from healthy to her last breath prior to me being diagnosed with cancer. And so that warrior in her that I saw, because at the time my son was 6 months old. He is now 18 years old. Listen to me. Wow. 6 months old, I was diagnosed. And I remember during my cancer journey, looking at my mom, interacting with my mom. And I said to myself, I want my son to know, I want anyone to know that my testimony is of value, whether I live beyond this cancer journey, but that to know that I lived fully through it. And so God had it so in my purposeful life that today I am in remission over 17 years.
Wow.
Yet,
Wow.
leg,
Wow.
thank you.
Wow.
My
Wow.
leg
Erin,
was removed,
wow. Wow.
but my purpose is being fulfilled.
Erin,
And so,
listen,
yes.
you're so used to the platform that you have your origin story coming at us left, right, and center. You're not letting us get a breath in. You're talking about you are a limb deficient. That's what you called yourself?
Limb
difference individual. So let's pause right there. You are a limb. You refer to yourself as a limb difference. See, I all got the D part wrong because you had your thing going. Ma'am, I'm telling you. So you're saying that you have been, thanks to God, 17 years cancer free. I am happy to hear that. And I know for a fact, I am hearing your heart. I am seeing you with my eyes in your blue dress and your blue lens glasses. But I'm hearing your heart and I'm hearing the fight. So 17 years ago, what were you doing in your life when things happened and you had to go in to find out what was wrong, and that's what you heard? What was going on in your life at that time?
Oh, Totlyn, I am loving these questions, and here's why. 17 years ago, I was finishing up my university, my undergraduate studies. As I said at the time, my son was 6 months old. I was the student government president for my university. I was the NAACP treasurer for my university.
And what university was this? What university was this?
University of West Virginia, and West Virginia State University. And also, I played volleyball for my school as well. But I was, and I'm going to use was because the 17 years a year ago, Erin, is different for the 2022 Erin, right? And so during that time, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I do know that I've always been civically involved. So Rotary, Kiwanis, Key Club in high school, Rotaract in high school, ministry inside the church, all of these things, I was very, very active because my father, he was a nation builder. So he was a senator. He was vying to be a minister of parliament here in the Bahamas. He was very active in nation building. My mother, who was an athlete and also grassroots. So my roots was all about action, implementation, about valuing a person, not only for where they are at, but also where they are going, right? So when I was diagnosed, I feel like that was a moment, not a tragedy for me. That was a turning point for me to get really, really clear. I felt like God took that opportunity to say, so listen here, sister. I know all that stuff that they say when you make a plan, God blah. I know all that stuff that you thinking about, that you ain't thinking about, that you're heading to, you're not heading to. So let me make it really, really clear for you. Where is your purpose and where I am going to lift you up. And so for me, I took that 100%. And I took it 100% in my own way. Now, mind you, I wasn't thinking along that lines. I remember acquiring my disability and all my access to everything that I was used to doing as a non-disabled person was like just gone. And I wondered, how is that possible? What do you mean that person's living their lives, they're experiencing this type of barriers and challenges just because they have been diagnosed or they have acquired or they've been born with a disability? Like, this cannot be absolutely correct. And yes, it is. Yes, it was, and yes, it is today. Yet that put me on a trajectory of self-advocacy. I was never shy about talking. I was never shy, but if you asked me a question, I wasn't going to answer you. And if I didn't know the answer, I was willing to say, I don't know, but I will be back. Because when I do know, we're going to follow up on this conversation, right?
Right,
And
right.
so 17 years ago, I was a young mother who didn't really know what she wanted to do other than she loved meeting persons, she loved playing sports, and she was about new things, new experiences, and anything that had to do with speaking. And my God, 2022 is showing me that, you know what? Growth isn't so bad.
Right, right, right. And so, as I asked before, yes, that is what you were doing. What caused you to come to the table of discovery that this was bone cancer you had? You know, what happened? Did you go somewhere
Yes.
one day, wake up
So,
with a pain in your foot? What happened?
interesting story. I had no idea I had bone cancer. During my college years, we're going through, I'm in West Virginia, so there's snow. My son at the time was maybe about 2 months. I'm going to say maybe about 2 months or so. I just had him. And I was coming down the stairs and I slipped. There was, from people tracking up the stairs with the water, it was tiled. I literally slipped down those stairs. And instead of falling forward, I threw myself back and it hyperextended my left knee, so that we could kind of ride the wave or ride the stairs versus tumbling forward and injuring him. That led to me wearing a brace, doing some rehabilitation for a while, but apparently it went to a cell that they thought was a cyst. And so a year later, about a year, when I was home on break, I stood up to mop and I fell to the ground. I thought I fell on some water, so I didn't think nothing of it. But 2 weeks later, I still couldn't put any weight on that leg. So I went to the doctors in Nassau, Bahamas, and they immediately after a MRI sent me straight over to Florida to the specialist to get treatment. And in my mind, I thought I just really hurt myself and I needed surgery that we're not doing. But after the x-rays of my chest and asking me, how do I feel? Is my appetite still here? What is going on? I went, what's going on? I'm confused. They casted my leg from my toe to my hip in order for the bone not to break. They advised me that I have a fingernail thin. I want you to look at your finger. Now, I don't have no nails on my finger, but I want you to look at your finger and the little piece of nail that you may have had. My bone was literally that thin that I was walking and playing sports and being student government president and all of these things. I was doing all of this on a fingernail thin bone and it did not break. So they went ahead and cast me because they didn't want it to break and I had to start chemotherapy right away. It was stage 4 and they were absolutely amazed that it had not spread to any other areas of my body. And so they said to me, you one lucky girl. And Totlyn, I think that was the beginning of the discovery of where this journey was going to head, was when my response to the doctor was, I'm not lucky, I'm blessed. And I started my aggressive chemotherapy for about a year or 2. We did really strong chemotherapy because they wanted to save the leg. At the last minute going into surgery, they said to me, it's not surgery, it's amputation by mistake. It was spilled to me, so I canceled the surgery. Yes, I called up the doctors and I said, we're not doing the surgery. At that time, I lost my insurance when I was diagnosed. So my family literally was counting coins, raising money for me to get this limb-saving surgery. And so I had to inform them that it's going to be amputation, and I canceled the surgery. So, I don't know if anyone from the island on here, but you can't be calling your people telling them that you just canceled the surgery that's supposed to save your life. And so I caught it for a while, but I said, no, God knows what he's doing. And I could not go into that surgery not knowing what they were going to do. I no longer trusted it. But God had it so when I was leaving that doctor's with all of my files, all of my folders underneath my arm with crutches, a gentleman came running down the hallway and he introduced himself as the director. This is how God is elevate you. The director of osteosarcoma for Jackson Medical Hospital. And so he said to me, Erin, you can't leave. We want to do your surgery. And I said, well, how much is it going to cost? I don't have insurance. And he said to me, this is a teaching hospital and we will do your surgery for free. All we ask that you do is to sign your leg for research because your case is one that has never happened before. We have never seen anything, the tumor as large as that is, because the chemotherapy did not shrink it, but it did not allow it to grow. And so they were able to successfully remove it. And they also had to go up a bit higher on my leg. So I'm mid-thigh amputation. And I said to him, okay. And he took those files from me, and about 3 months later, I was doing my amputation, removal of my leg surgery, and I've been on it ever since. I recognized that the removal of the leg was not one that I should be sad about. I recognized that I had lugged a leg round that I could not use for about 2 years. I had to do injections because I got blood clots. I don't like those. They were not my happy moment times. And so, yeah, I was ready to let it go. And I accepted every and anything that God presented after that, because they asked me, what are you going to do next? And I was like, live. I'm just going to live. And
Erin, you just said the words. You just said the words. You just said the words for the reason Go Speak Woman was.
Yes.
How to live goldenly in spite of. Erin. Now, if you're listening for the first time, you just tuned in. We're speaking with Erin Brown, para-triathlete. Yes, athlete. One full leg, the other an amputee above the knee, and also a disability consultant. Please understand, this is not the first time I have personally spoken with Erin about this. This story sounds so fresh. But then I guess this is the 2022 Totlyn listening to the 2022 Erin. Yes, you are an inspiration. You were specially handpicked by God to experience this, running around on a leg with a bone as fat as our fingernail. Nothing happening except a simple fall. And this is why you will see me asking Erin what was happening at the time, why she had, because I know the story, but I don't know the story as well as Erin does. And I couldn't tell you the story as well as Erin just did. And you see the fight and the spirit in her. She was long prepared for this journey. The circumstances just came about because now you've joined a group of individuals in our world who needed your advocacy. Coming along, what did your advocacy for disability and all related issues look like?
So Totlyn, I love what you just said, because I am a community of over 1 billion persons around the world, and it's growing every day. From accident, incident, age, natural disasters, emergencies. Our community is a community that will continue to grow. But is that a bad thing? It's absolutely not. It is part of life and growth. We're going to go through challenges. We're going to go through experiences. We're going to go through things that we are not even sure who and what and how we're going to do things anymore. That is the beauty of life. And so when I acquired a disability 17 years ago, I found out exactly who and whose I am. I found out and I recognized the beauty that was I authentically. My prosthetic leg does not define me. A wheelchair did not define me. A pair of crutches did not define me. Yes, they are adaptive equipment that were created and designed to give not only ease, but access to the different things that are available in life, in activities, in fulfillment, in thriving. And yes, I am able to choose any one of those at any day, which one that I will use. Yet,
Yes.
when I became a disability inclusion consultant, that was one of survival. I entered spaces that did not say to me, or a matter of fact, that said to me, who are you and why are you here? What do we, there's nothing here for you. And I was not prepared to accept that. I was not prepared to say, oh, okay then, and go to the left. No, because life had taught me that I am of value, that I am whole. And as a person with a disability, I was prepared to not only advocate for myself, but now to uplift and empower my community that is 1 billion strong, 15% of the population. And so for me, this movement of showing up, of taking inspiration and now turning it into implementation or integration, because the conversation about disability has been very separate and apart. We feel like when we're talking about disability inclusion, we need to create something else. I dare to say to you, you have already created the wheel. We do not need to create it again. What we need to do is integrate the necessary components that make it sustainable, innovative, creative, diverse. And you know these terms because we've been hearing these terms. When we hear about diversity, do we think disability? When we go and fill out an application and we tick those boxes for sex and gender and race and sexual orientation and religion, do you ever see disability? You don't ever see those things. And why is that? Why is that? Because we have successfully, over time, have not acknowledged a community's identity, because disability is not a bad word. It is part of our identity that continues to be devalued, that continues to be removed, that continues to not be counted. And therefore, if you're not counted, truly tell me, how are we creating programs and budgeting and removing barriers and making sure things and policies are inclusive? How can we do that if we don't know the numbers? How is it possible? And I dare someone to really answer that for me from the true perspective that access is a human right. Us being on Zoom right now, we were given access to this. This was created in such an accessible way that any and everyone can access it. Why? Because it makes sense to do so, to be sustainable.
Right. You know, it sounds like every day you go to your bed feeling fully spent in what it is that you love, which is life, fully spent in the cause that you are brought to, because you have the strength, the heart, and the power to get the message out. Just like you said, disability is not a bad word. Disability is not considered. The numbers of 1 billion people being disabled in our world, whether through accident, being born that way, due to age, whatever, is not considered. I used to be a salesperson for disability insurance. The numbers are real. They're very real. In fact, my own son went through a period of disability, not once, but twice. I felt I was helping an old 60-year-old man. But thanks be to God, through therapy and so on, he has come through disability. And it's not easy. It is not easy. But like you, we set our minds to the task of dealing with what is, with great hope for the future. I love it. I absolutely love it. I see that we have Errol Bean with us tonight. Thank you. You're always tuning in. We appreciate that. Let us see who else has joined us for this evening. My phone doesn't want to move. Hi, Melanie Daly out of Georgia. Thank you so much for being here with us and everyone else tuning in at this time. Now, Erin, when we were doing our prep for tonight, we hit upon a few issues that I really want us to table, because for those of us who are not experiencing long-term disability in our household, there's a lot we don't get. There's not a lot we understand. And yes, there is a difference between short-term disability and long-term disability. My son experienced on 2 occasions short-term disability. The first time, a torn ACL, which required knee surgery. And of course, it also required rehabilitation. And Erin, I tell you, getting up in the middle of the night to help him ice that knee as it healed was something else. It was not easy. Taking him to and fro with regards to therapy was not easy either. Additionally, just a couple years ago, he had a bacterial infection that only affects babies. And it started out as a backache, a simple backache. And it progressed for several weeks. He was in the hospital for an entire month, lost almost 30 pounds, and had to go through rehab, gain back the strength. He wasn't able to walk. In none of those situations was he able to walk. So I saw it. But because I saw him already whole, and because of his strength of spirit, I saw him make it through. And thank God, yes, God planned a great program of rehabilitation and recovery for him. So now he's busy riding up and down all over the place and doing what he needs to do. So I just wanted to pause and explain that, yes, disability is real. It has touched my household. So when it comes on to long-term disability, Erin, the first thing I want us to talk about is the whole business of how do we name, how do we call without offense? Back in the day, it was one word, cripple, one word. Now, as we grow in awareness and as humanity grows, we select words that are more inclusive, that are warmer, gentler, realer, and taking into consideration matters of the heart. So how do we go about, you labeled yourself, you identify, not labeled, you identify yourself as a limb difference. I don't want to say the wrong thing again. A limb difference individual. I love that. What other words are there that we should refer to someone with a disability? Do we say a deaf person? Do we say a woman with disability or a disabled woman? That kind of thing. Explain that for us, please.
Well, I am so glad that you took the time to not only speak about short-term and long-term disability, but we also need to recognize that not all disabilities are visible or physical disabilities. We have invisible disabilities that you cannot view with your naked eye. And so a lot of the conversations and the narratives that I have is about changing that type of mindset and that type of dialogue, because I am successful with a disability. I didn't overcome one. I didn't do it despite of my disability. I am living with a disability, and therefore success is mine. Everything is mine and available to me. And those things that are not available to me, we're going to work on that. We're going to be intentional about it. because it speaks to access, inclusion, and opportunities, which are all human rights. And so your question about identifying or even the language is very important. And you said very, very poignant terms and points: heart-centered, gentler. All of these things is what we are politically correct. That's one of the things you normally hear when you're talking about language. But what we find in our marginalized groups in our communities, and that's low income, that's migrants, that's bilingual, multilingual persons, that is persons of just diverse backgrounds, right? Socioeconomic areas and spaces. We're always labeled somehow, some way, in whether it's something positive or whether we see it as something negative. And I always take it back to the Black movement, to the civil rights movement. Disability movement is similar to that, and here's why. For a very long time, we started off with colored people, and then we started off with the N-word with ER, then the N-word with A, and then we're now all about Black. So what did we do? We reclaimed it, we gave it a different feel, we empowered it as strength, and that's what we're going to have to do for this disability. We're going to have to reclaim it, we're going to have to empower it, give it a different feel, because it's not a negative, it's not a bad, it's not the end of the world type of feeling or thing. What it is what it has been, and it will always be a part of our identity. And so now we need to move in that thought process. A lot of terms that we've heard, handicap. So let me give you the history of handicap. Handicap literally came from way back in the king and lords of times, when men came from war and the king allowed them with cap in hand to beg or pander on the street. And so we then correlated the cap in hand to handicapped persons. And then it translated into handicapped children. And then we go into sports. If you're a sports athlete like myself or enthusiast, you recognize that handicap is used in golf. And what is handicap in golf? It penalizes the best player. We handicap a person in sports to ensure a level playing field, right? And so we've been using that term very gingerly, and we're now being more intentional. It's not a handicap parking spot. It's a disabled parking spot. It's not a handicap restroom. It's an accessible restroom. It's not a wheelchair ramp. It's an access ramp. And so now when we're talking about identity, we want to ask the question, what do you want to be called? And I'll be honest with you, in my community or any community, we will say our name. You ask me that question, I'll say, just call me Erin.
Right,
but
right.
We have to also address that when we're talking about a community, when we're talking about the identity of a grouping of persons, we need to respect and honor their identity and the layers at that. And so you have persons who like person first identity, which is what you refer to when you say people or person with disabilities. And then you have identity first language when you say disabled woman or disabled person or blind person or low vision person, the identity first. Are any of these wrong and incorrect? Absolutely not, because you get to choose which one you would like. You can say all of the above. For me, personally, the minute you say disability, I smile, because I recognize you as a person who is not only qualifying me as a whole person, you are addressing a piece of my identity that society has taught us to just throw it in the back and leave it alone until we have to deal with it. And so it's important when we're talking about language, when we're using language, to recognize that terms like differently abled is the human race. We're all differently abled.
Abled, indeed.
Able-bodied. That's me too. I'm able-bodied. And so you do not want to remove or strip. On the ship today, a person said to me, I always tell people there's no no disability person. There's nothing wrong with their ability. And so we don't call them disabled. And I had to say to her, well, let me help you for a moment in my stance and where I stand on that. do not remove or strip my identity by not stating that I live with a disability, or I'm a person with a disability, or I'm a disabled woman. Because for too long, we have faced that. Our lived experience has been of exclusion. And I will not allow you to continue from this day on to do that to somebody. So it's not a bad word to say disabled. And once again, ask if you're not
That's
sure.
right. That's right.
Absolutely not sure how to, and you're feeling edgy about it, ask. Ask the simple question, how would you like for me to refer to you? I would
Right.
like to speak about the disability that you're living with. I would like you to share your story. Would you share that with me? Are you comfortable with that? These are human questions that does not just speak to disability, it speaks to just being a human
Oh,
being.
wow.
And so that is the narrative that we are really focusing
Mhm.
on. Access is a human right. And so whether you remove that access by your language, by the way that you're engaging, you're implementing your policies, your procedures, the way that you have not only engaged, but you've encouraged engagement on actions or implementation for marginalized groups, I want you to know that disability is intersectional. What does intersectional mean? It's in everything.
Great thing.
It cuts through
Makes sense.
every fabric that is life.
Makes sense. That makes complete sense. Makes complete sense. I'm in a Facebook group with women who do exercise and try to do weight management and all of that. And one of someone posted a set of exercises that included deep bends. And more than a few women mentioned, I don't think I'll be able to do that at this age. So right there and then, you're talking about women of different abilities. You are correct. As simple as you take it,
Absolutely.
you are correct. You know, and
Absolutely.
that's how I just explained it, is how I grasped it from how you explained it. Now,
Yes.
two things we have to discuss before you go is
Yes.
one, disability and sexuality. I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
very important topic. And I really want to hear some about your experience as a para triathlete, especially now that the Paralympics are taking place right now. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I love it. I love it. And I do have family members who support Paralympics, Special Olympics. So I'm like, wow, this is like fantastic. And those stories are heartwarming. So first, let's start off with the whole issue of disability and sexuality. And the
So I wish I
issue
could give you.
and the issues that arise.
Well, yes, sexuality and disability is a very taboo topic. Well, sex is a taboo topic, but I wish I could give you a panoramic view of me tonight because for many times more than so, persons say to me, "You're so beautiful to be a one-leg girl or to have a disability." Oh, do you know what? That guy, you're absolutely blessed to have him because living with the disability, you just need somebody. Or you really think that you could be in a relationship with somebody like interable relationships, a person without non-disabled person and a disabled person having. Or why do you think, where's your confidence? Why is your confidence as such? Because you live with a disability. How is that possible? And I smile and wave at times, but most of the times I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how could you not see the beauty? How could you not see the beauty in these persons with disabilities, our disabled population, our men and our women who are not only beautiful, but they are sexual beings,
Mm,
period, point blank. And
mhm,
the stereotypes that we have within our community is you're either hypersexual or you're low libido or
mhm,
you're unable to love or you're unable to give love, and all of these stereotypes that are floating around and that does not enable us to really live a healthy sexual intimate relationship life. But it's
mm.
possible. It
Oh
is
yeah.
possible. It's not going to be easy because you're going to have to find that partner. You're going to have to find that space that allows us to
Mhm.
not only be our authentic selves, but for you to love us authentically. So yeah, that's a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother topic. So whenever it is now we come to discuss, whenever we start discussing ideas of sexuality and relationships, you know that you're going to be one of my guests for sure. Erin, you are a model and a para-athlete. I want you to share with us the first modeling gig that you got as someone who is representative of this 1 billion population.
I forgot I had it on mute. I'm so sorry. And so, yes, what I recognize, my modeling aspirations came from actually meeting another fashion model amputee by the name of Mama Katz. She is no longer alive, but she is an absolute, she's my kin. And you're going to see me moving now because we're actually getting ready to leave the ship.
Right.
And so as you see behind me is my partner.
Yes. Okay. Hi, partner. We were just talking about you. Why is he looking away?
And so, thank you. And so what I did was, what she allowed me to be was authentically me. She was a hip femoral amputee. So her amputation actually went up to her hip. She's a bald head American Haitian descent and absolutely melanated to the core. And I saw myself in her. And I spoke to her socially online, and I said to her, you know what, I've always wanted to be, and she was not a slim figured woman. You know, us island Caribbean gals, we got figure. Right. And she was one of them. And so from that moment on, I was like, why not? And so I went ahead and I decided that I'm going to move forward in fashion modeling. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to show up authentically because I love fashion. I love colors, as you can see. I love changing my hairstyles and I love doing different things. And so I've been intentionally doing that for the past, I'm going to say 3 years. I've been invited to LA Fashion Runway before, even though I thought I was being pranked. And so I didn't respond. And when they followed up, they was like, no, this is real. This is absolutely real. And we would love to have you. But by that time, coming from the Bahamas, I'd already missed a few of the things. So we was like, okay, let's table it for another time. But it's important to show up authentically. And I do that. I do that every day. And I do that with the intention that representation matters. Mama Katz showed up on my feed one day just haphazardly. Didn't know her, didn't know she existed, but I knew that she was me and I was her. And there were other women out there that needed that representation as I needed it, even though I wasn't looking for it. And so, yes, that is how it started, and that's how it's going. So now I have an agency. I have not only an agent, but I have a group that I'm a part of, Gamut Management, as well as Bahamas Art of Movement, where I'm doing commercials and voiceovers. Nice. And everything is possible. And this is why I say what I say. When I say that with a disability, success is possible with a disability, not despite of, not overcoming it, but being authentically you. That is what thriving is about, being authentically you.
Erin, I love you. Enjoy your dinner tonight and enjoy the rest of your experience. Thank you so much for taking the time to share a part of your life with us as a Go Speak woman, because here you have dropped some serious golden nuggets tonight that will live on forever. And this video is going to be on consistent repeat. That is for sure. Erin Brown, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin. Enjoy your evening on the cruise, on the Odyssey, and continue to be the godmother that you are. My love to you and everyone else.
And don't forget, I have a space for you here in the Bahamas, so you just let me know. Have a wonderful night.
I shall certainly do that. Ladies and gentlemen, good night. You just heard from Erin Brown, our para athlete. We didn't get the chance to get into that, but I can assure you that this indeed has been my pleasure sharing with you. Erin Brown on Go Speak Women 2022. We're going to sign off from this live cast and rejoin in a few moments. So stay tuned for Dr. Vanessa Dunn Guyton.